Well, good evening, church. It's great to see all of you. I hope everyone at Holmes Road is doing exceptionally well, and we are all staying safe, and we are all experiencing some time of solitude during this quarantine, and we all know the reasons as to why we have been under quarantine by the federal government of our nation. And during this time, we have, as the ministry staff, thought about how we might continue these forms of ministry and move our church forward. And this is one of them. We're going to be doing some midweek devotionals throughout. And I have been thinking personally about several different passages. Personally, I have faced a lot of emotions. I have gone up and down as far as anxiety. I have been angry. I've been very sad. I have also seen times of positivity and happiness, not only because I've gotten to spend these last several days with my family and my children, which in ministry you may not receive the daily time with the family that you might. So this has been a time of refreshing for me. It's also been a time where many different passages have entered my mind, but one seems to be sort of at the foundation or the forefront of all these other passages that I'm thinking about. And so I wanted to take this time to use a certain passage in the Bible, since we aren't attending church tonight for now the second week in a row, as we are under day 8 or day 9 of this experience, and we will probably see many more weeks of this experience. It could be many more months. We all are certainly hopeful that change will come very quickly. But there was a prophet by the name of Elijah, and he had a similar time where he really struggled with emotions and patience. And I see this in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 9 and following, and I'm going to read through 15. So rather 6 or 7 verses. If you want to follow along, I'll again be in 1 Kings 19. If you want to just listen, feel free to do that. There he came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I've been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left. And they seek my life to take it away." And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire the sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away." And the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria." Elijah is a very unique prophet in the fact he's not named after a book that we have in the Old Testament. He's a prophet that just kind of randomly comes on the scene, as we see. And he is called into the wilderness. And that's really where his ministry is. And his main job is to prophesy to the worst king of the divided kingdom, Ahab, that has ever existed over Israel. And he has done evil before, at this time, he had done more evil than any other king before him. He also married a woman by the name of Jezebel, who he was highly influenced by. She was a Phoenician woman, and both of them were influenced into the evil trap of idolatry, as all of us can be. And Elijah's job is to go and preach to Ahab and to prophesy to the people who follow Ahab that Baal is not God. And Elijah has several different episodes before this one. He has predicted a drought and a time of famine. He has also been the one to raise the widow of Zarephath's son. And also, we see one of his most famous, probably of the two episodes of his life, one being Mount Carmel and the battle of who is God, either God or Baal. And then, of course, at the end of his time of prophecy, he's taken up in the chariot of fire. But in this occasion, we see Elijah being the guy who has to encounter God himself. Because he actually wished, based on the fact that he had prophesied to Ahab and he had been running always for his life from Ahab and Jezebel, that he would be running in the wilderness. And that because they sought to kill him for his work for the Lord. And so the Lord calls him to Mount Horeb, which was actually known as Mount Sinai before. And we know that Moses, who led the Israelite people out of Egypt, had received the law there. So we see Elijah here in this place, and we find him in a place where he is angry with the way things are going. He's upset with how things are going, and he is really struggling with patience, and he is actually wanting his life, as it said just before this episode, to actually be removed by God. So he is anxious, he's scared, he's tired, he's consumed with what is going to happen to me next. How am I going to make it through the next day? Will there continue to be more famine, more drought? What is going to be the next time that Ahab and Jezebel approach me and try to kill me? So here we have Elijah encountering three really huge natural disasters that would be significant to any person who sees them. An earthquake, a wind before that, and a fire after that. But the same phrase is still true in each one of those, that the Lord is not present in any of those natural disasters, even as loud and as boisterous as these disasters are. But it's found in a whisper. Only in the whisper is this particular God of all found. A very unique way, a very unpredictable way, a way that no one in the world would ever think, even in such calamity, it would come with such a boisterous nature, bigger than any loud noise that we could ever comprehend or fathom. But it's actually in a very low whisper. Elijah feeling very overwhelmed by this whisper that he hears, who has asked Elijah for a second time, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And I think maybe during this time of the coronavirus or COVID-19 or the Rona, as we have seen all these different names, we might have felt so many different emotions. We might be in a place of grief as we are having to transition from one place to another, a place of being busy and working all the time in the world, or even a transition of having a job, a transition of going to church on a regular basis in a communal form, where we don't see our family as much, and we have actually grown accustomed to doing that. And now everything is put on hold, and we are told we are not to leave our house except for essentials and to not go out. And this is all very earth-shattering to us because it's not the norm. And so we may feel like we're in a never-ending nightmare. We may be anxious to exist, or to have found ourselves not having employment, as some of us may be facing that situation right now. And we might even ask ourselves, like myself, well, what is the future of my congregation? What is the future of my ministry? What is the future of my family and my marriage and my children? How long will this particular situation last? And it's a fight against this disease for the medical people and the scientists and all the researchers. And many people are trying to band together and put their minds together and to figure out how we can stop this spread on an instant, or how we can create a vaccine. What are the voices that you're seeking and listening to? Because here in our world, the media is consistently bombarding us with so many different messages, and depending on which network you're looking at, you're going to get a particular slant. We're hearing all forms of political jargon, and it doesn't matter which side you typically lean in our world today and in our nation today. It's really sad how the different parties are just going at each other, instead of, in a moment like this, there ought to be a real collaboration together of how we can move forward as a nation where there is no rhetoric that is negative. We might be hearing the voice of the devil, and the voice of the devil is absolutely scary and is a liar, and wanting us to believe that God can't bring us through this. We may find ourselves wondering, even from people who are influential and who seem to have a powerful voice, yet we've trusted them, trusted their word in everything about every situation, and they just might not know what the solution is. And really, at this point, it's hard to see one from anyone, and so that troubles us. But one thing still remains: the truth. The truth is that the voice that is so quiet, the one who is talking to us and the one that is trying to be heard the most, seems to be blocked out by all the noise that we have surrounded ourselves with. The fact that we have lived a life that was normal to us, and this is our new normal. And that's hard to fathom. A place of stillness, a place of quiet, a place of solitude, one that we don't enter into all that often. We actually are very busy people as Americans and in the world even, and we are proud of our busyness. And the more busy we are, the more boastful we become. We play a comparison game, and we vent about how busy we are. At this point, this is a real long Sabbath for us. No sports, no communal church and the actual assembly together where we can see and touch and feel and hug one another, give handshakes. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of panic. We're wondering when the grocery stores will be filled, and we're seeing all arguments about that on the web. We are seeing the voices that are so loud. So I want to encourage us maybe to consider that the truth that God is bigger than all of this. He's wanting us to keep going in the wilderness as he called Elijah to. Just continue on in the wilderness. Keep waiting for me to show up. Because when I do, maybe it's a time that many will know who he is. Maybe more people will actually, with every knee, as God talks about later in the New Testament, that every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. I mean, that is our hope as Christians, that many more people find God. So I hope that this devotional thought might mean something to you. Don't forget to look for the whisper. Our God's voice just might be in that. The voices that we turn to that seem to be the loudest are not this particular voice. This voice is gentle. This voice is humble. This voice is asking us to come to him when we're weary and heavy laden. So no matter your status of life, wherever you are, if you're a child and you're bored, if you're a teen and you're just wanting to go out with your friends and hang out with those that you love, if you're a parent and you are worn out by schoolwork and you're worn out by even seeing your spouse this much, if you are worn out as a minister because you want to meet people and lead them through worship and all of that, and we can't do that. We can't have Bible class in the ways that we want, but God has whispered to us already different ways that we can creatively expand our ministries, and He's put that through His Holy Spirit. So I think if we are humble enough, we just might hear the whisper. God bless all of you. I hope and pray this is an encouragement to you as it has been to me.